know, you go out to restaurants and it's like basic Valentine's meal now is like 5,000 pesos. I can't believe it. I'm like, are you kidding me? And that's per head. 10K for Valentine's Day dinner. I mean, you know, most people in Manila making what, 30, 40K. It's like a week's pay to take your date out. It's a total rip. Okay, so Valentine's Day na mga kabano, and if you watched my tips of last week about how to be tipid on Valentine's Day, and if you haven't, check the video out here because it's very funny and it's going to save you a lot of money. But my last tip was cook at home for Valentine's Day. I really believe that when you cook for somebody, you've got to do the marketing, you've got to learn the recipe, you've got to actually prepare and cook, and usually a 3-course meal, it's a lot of work. And I believe that that's a more meaningful expression of your love than simply going out and handing over cash to a restaurant and then doing the work for you while you just, what I think anyway. And if you agree, and you want to save some money this year, I've actually picked out 5 recipes that you literally can cook in this order, and it would be a complete 5-course meal with one of the course being drinks. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 recipes and 1 drink that you could cook, and you could do this end to end. The first recipe that I'm going to recommend is Kilawin. The reason that this one is so popular for me as a choice for Valentine's Day is that it is actually very fast to make. You can make it a few hours before, so if you're trying to cook several things, that's really important that you can sort of pre-cook some things and have them in the fridge and you just pull them out when they're ready. But visually it looks amazing, it tastes amazing, and it's a really impressive dish from a flavor perspective. So this one, you know, what you're going to need, and the full recipe we'll put here. I cooked it before on the show to see my version of it, but usually a big meaty fish, so tangige or tuna would be my preferred go-to. They're readily available, price is pretty good, and you're actually just going to basically cook or poach them in citrus acid and vinegar, and after 15 to 30 minutes in the fridge, the fish is sort of technically cooked by being in contact with the acids from the calamansi juice and the vinegar that you put in there. So it's one where it does have quite a few ingredients and a few fresh ingredients, but if you're shopping for Valentine's Day, you're going to do a big shop, I assume, to buy everything you need. You need a bit of chili, you need a bit of cilantro, a little bit of shallots or onion leeks, a little bit of coconut cream, calamansi you're probably going to have at home, and vinegar, a nice spiced vinegar in there. You'll normally have that in your pantry, so not too demanding on the ingredient list, and you just mix it all together, put it in the fridge, done. And what I like to do, and I put it in cocktail glasses because it looks really amazing. And then if you want to pair this with wines, it does have quite a bit of acid and vinegar in there. Now you do need to offset that with the coconut cream, and that'll give you a more balanced taste. But when you're looking at pairing with a wine, go with something that's a high acid white wine, maybe a little bit on the sweet side. You've got some chili in your kilawin, and that's also going to give you a sweet and sour flavor. So from some of the wines we have, I'd look at things like a Chenin Blanc, Petit Manseng, those are French varietals that can be a little bit off dry or towards the sweeter end, but still good acid. Mix that with the kilawin, and you're going to have a really nice wine pairing as well that will impress your date. So we finished our appetizer course. Moving into a, maybe what the Italians might have as their first dish would be a pasta course. So for me, I love cooking pastas, and what I love about pasta is it's the 1-pot dish. Obviously it's 2-pot because you got to cook the pasta, but where you're making the sauce, the dirty pot, there's only 1, right? So not as much washing up, and you can really mix and match a lot of different ingredients in a pasta and work with what ingredients you have. In a way, it's like pancit, where you can really experiment. Like, it's going to be a noodle dish, it's going to be a pasta dish, right? But you can play around with what ingredients are in season and so forth. Now, in the Philippines, I love to adapt Italian style cooking here, and I'm not talking about Jolly Spaghetti. Despite what Jollibee tells you, I'm not sure if taking your date out for Jolly Spaghetti is gonna win you a lot of points. Unless you just really love Jollibee and like getting a chicken and a Jolly Spaghetti every day, then maybe that will work. But for the most part, I think you need a slightly more impressive pasta than a Jolly Spaghetti for Valentine's Day. And the one I'm recommending you guys try out is my Calumpit and black bean rigatoni. This one uses all local ingredients. So we start with a Calumpit Longganisa, which, if you're not familiar with it, it's sort of like half garlic, half pork. So you don't add any more garlic to this. Your garlic comes from the Calumpit Longganisa. And you're basically going to cook off your Longganisa, then remove it from the pan, leave the oil. Very important to leave all the Longganisa pan juice and oil there, because that's going to be your flavor base. And then add a little bit more olive oil, sibuyas, and then I would put in a little bit of bell pepper and some fresh cherry tomatoes, just sliced lengthways. If you can get 2 different colors, it'll look better, like a more green or choco tomato and a more red cherry tomato. And then you're going to bring back your Calumpit, and I just roughly chop that, throw it back in, add a tin of black beans. You want to soak them first so that they're not quite as salty. And what you're doing there is using cherry tomatoes. It's a sweetest style tomato. You have your saltiness coming in from your black beans. The Calumpit is very, very savory. And then I like to finish this actually with some Cuban oregano, big leaf oregano that we have here in the Philippines. I would normally slice a bit of that up thinly, top it with that, a little bit of cheese, and you've got a beautiful pasta. The reason we use rigatoni is that it's big enough to catch all those globs of Longganisa and bits of black beans, so they like get caught up inside the rigatoni tubes. So it's a really good choice of pasta for this one. Looks great, will impress, and pair it with a lighter style red Pinot Noir, Sangiovese, Barbera is going to work nicely for this also. Even a Tempranillo, if it's a slightly lighter Tempranillo, is going to be a good pair to this. Try it out. So, di ba dito sa Pilipinas, mahal ang steak? Like if you buy yung local beef, it's expensive and it's not particularly tender. If you buy imported beef, like a really good steak cut, super mahal din, di ba? So what I recommend on Valentine's Day to get that balance between a really impressive beef dish, but being not quite as expensive, is to do something like Salpicao. So instead of doing a whole steak, you're probably going to eat a little bit less meat overall because it's got a few other ingredients going on in there. So you're kind of cutting the dish, but it's still good quality. Now, I do recommend with Salpicao, you still want to probably get an imported good quality beef. When I make this, I'll use Australian Scotch fillet, which is one of the best cuts you could use, and it's super tender, but you really should be using at least sort of tenderloin or sirloin for this dish. If you're using sort of rump steak, it's probably going to be a little bit too tough. Or if you do that, you want to marinate the steak for a couple of hours first in something acidic to tenderize it a bit. So my Salpicao, and why I said you can sort of stretch the dish a bit, you put in mushrooms to stretch it. So sprinkle for the mushrooms because you're saving on the beef. And if you get a good quality mushroom in there, it's really going to make this dish delicious because it just soaks up all of the flavors of the beef. All the sauces that you use, you'll typically have in your pantry. You know, there'll be some oyster sauce in there, some Worcestershire, which gives a little bit of acidity and salty, sour notes, I should say. The oyster sauce, the savoriness, and then the shallots, the onions, the mushrooms, just all comes together into a really classy dish. What I then do myself is I like to flash fry some cabbage and just set that as a bed and then layer my Salpicao over the top. And by doing that, again, you just sort of bring in some vegetable, fairly light pairings for this one. Typically, I mentioned Tempranillo already. A heavier Tempranillo would work here. And you're even starting, because it's a beef and a fairly rich cut of beef, you can start getting to some of the traditional heavier reds. I would suggest like Nebbiolo, or Italians will call that Barolo or Barbaresco. You can do those, or you can do even some Shiraz with this, or Cabernet Sauvignon, because you're really working with beef here now. So try that out. We're getting to the dessert end of my perfect Valentine's meal plan. It's leche flan. I'm going to say leche flan slash panna cotta because panna cotta is very similar in a lot of ways, but it's easier. I'm going to tell you how to make leche flan first, and I'm going to tell you how to make panna cotta in a slightly faster, easy way. But leche flan is the iconic Filipino dessert, and there's a big difference in how it tastes, and particularly the texture of it when you make it at home. So with this one, you're normally using, leche, we literally mean milk flan. So normally you're using a condensed milk and often a regular milk, halo, sweetened. And when I make it, to make it a bit more special, I like to infuse mine. So I often will infuse it with some rosemary. So you drop a sprig of rosemary in when you're heating the milk, and it will just infuse it. Just literally 1-2 sprigs, that's it, that's all you need. Such a simple thing to do, but gives an amazing change. And you just have to make sure that you strain your milk to catch all of those things you infused it with. Now, leche flan is a little bit of work compared to some other desserts because you've got to have your leñera. You need to dry fire the leñera with sugar in there until it liquefies and gives you your caramel at the bottom of the leñera. So do that over a gas flame. You can do it with electric as well. Watch it a little bit more closely. And why don't you hold it with your tongs, and you just literally have to get the heat just right. And if you go for just 10 seconds too long, you're going to burn it. If you go for 10 seconds too light, you won't get the color. So you really have to watch this part closely. Once that's done, you pour in your infused milk and you just basically bake it and cool it. So very easy in some ways. My other tip for this one to get the texture of the home cooked leche flan is you need to use a cheesecloth to strain it. And we normally will strain it up to at least 2 times through a cheesecloth. That's just going to catch any impurities, particularly in the egg yolks. There's often particles in there and solids that add create a kind of a crunchy texture in the leche flan. So if you want it super fine, super smooth, it's just about strain once, strain twice, strain 3 times through a cheesecloth, and then you got this beautiful consistency that will impress everybody. So that's my tip for leche flan. But if you can't go all the way to leche flan, here's the hack: is to make panna cotta. And panna cotta, it starts exactly the same, right? You use your milk, your cream, your sugar, you heat it up. Once you've heated it, You add like your gelatin, like a teaspoon of gelatin in dry gelatin powder. You add that, you pour it into a jar, you put it in the fridge, you're done. Now, if you want to make it really impressive, you can put a bit of fruit in the bottom, so you get some little jars. You put 3 strawberries in the bottom of each and pour the Panna Cotta over the top, put it in the fridge. Or you can infuse it with a bit of vanilla essence or lavender or rosemary. But it's actually a lot faster than leche flan because there's no baking, so that's a tip. And it's a super impressive dessert, but it's ridiculously easy. So if you don't want to go all the way to leche flan, that's my little hack for you on the side. Just go, I made Panna Cotta instead. You look like a legend, but it'll take you 10 minutes. My last recipe, it's actually, what are you going to drink? Now, I've given you sort of different wine tips along the way that you could pair with the dish I'm recommending, but if you want to actually start off your Valentine's with a bang, I would suggest making some sangria and making it from scratch with real wine, not the crap that the restaurants serve. So basically, sangria is a great way to get something started with a bang. It looks visually amazing. It's absolutely delicious when you do it from real ingredients and with a real good quality wine. I've been working for a while on just how to make a perfect sangria for the Philippine climate and taste palette and using all Pinoy ingredients. So my Chris Urbano's Pinoy Sangria, we actually use a rosé wine as the base, so it's a lot lighter in color than a lot of those dark red rosés you'll see. And then I like to use all the Philippine citrus, so you gotta have some citrus in your sangria, so we'll use calamansi and dalandan. I still usually like to put an actual orange, because that's usually quite common in sangria, like an imported orange. So I'll have like 3 types of citrus, drop that in, let it steep in wine. Then you're normally gonna add some kind of alcoholic spirit, so we'll normally use the triple sec, which is an orange flavored spirit, some soda water, some simple syrup, so usually a brown simple syrup that I'll mix up and add in, but not too much, because I think the best sangria is actually not too sweet. And then you can top it off with some lemonade and soda water. And then I also would normally add to mine Baguio strawberries and fresh tarragon, like a sprig of fresh tarragon. And the secret with sangria is you want to be able to steep in the fruits for at least sort of 30 minutes to an hour before serving. But like with the Kinilaw that I mentioned earlier, this is stuff that you can do much earlier in the day and just have it sitting in the fridge waiting for the meal. So when it's mealtime, you're focused on the hot cooking, the Salpicao and the pasta, while you can just put out your sangria, you can just put out your Kinilaw at the start of the meal. And you look like a legend, because they're like, how do you cook 4 or 5 dishes so fast? And you've kind of done a few things ahead of time so that you're doing less cooking during your date and you can have more time actually talking to the person and enjoying your time together. So there you go, my kabano. That is Chris Urbano's top 5 Valentine's Day recipes, and actually a whole Valentine's meal plan if you want to try and cook it at home. If you take on this challenge of doing all 5 dishes, please let me know. I'd love to see pictures, love to hear how it went. All the recipes that I've just talked you through are available at maputingcooking.com, so hopefully this helps you guys have a better, more tipid, but more love-filled and meaningful Valentine's Day this year. Happy Valentine's Day to all of my kabanos. Wishing you all the best. I'm Chris Urbano. See you next time. Bye now.